What's the rudest thing a guest has ever done in your home? Uncle tried to fix our computer. It wasn't broken. He then broke it. Did the same to our perfectly working dishwasher. Then he denied everything. Every male in my girlfriend's family is like this. When they come to visit they always mess with my appliances, which are either brand new or custom built by me. I don't need you tinkering with my stuff uninvited, just because you're an auto mechanic, or you used to ride a dirt bike. I'm not impressed, just annoyed. Since people are asking, I've custom made a refrigerator, blender, and coffee machine. I also installed some electronics in our stove to connect it to our smart home, as my live-in girlfriend has a bad habit of leaving it on. Some of you have mentioned computers, and a lot of these appliances are very similar to building a computer. You can purchase parts online from a wholesaler, and each part fits pretty reliably into the overall blueprint. Some are more particular than others about what other brands they'll work with, others are more universal. Customizing further than that requires you to do some of your own machining, but it's pretty easy. I'm crazy about DIY because I love learning how stuff works, and if any of this sounds interesting to you, don't wait to Google it. There are tons of fun tutorials out there. I would suggest staying away from things like ovens, though, as they have much more potential to cause damage to your home, and in the case of a house fire, I'm not sure your insurance would cover you. We had a bunch of pizza in the fridge we'd ordered the night before they arrived. There were 3 other families already there, so we had ordered a lot and there were much leftovers, and everyone who was there at the time had pitched in to pay. The one family who hadn't been there for pizza arrived the morning after and were talking about going out to eat. The families were all okay with this, thinking it'd be great to have lunch in individual families and get back together for dinner. Everyone was loading up, including the most recent arrival family, but when we drove off, they unloaded, went back inside, and ate all the pizza. We would have told them it was fine if they had said, "Yo, could we eat that pizza for lunch?" But pretending they were going someplace and then sneaking back inside and eating it was so shady. Fact 1. They aren't poor, just really cheap too. This was my uncle and his family 3. This was at my grandma's house. She had just passed and everyone was getting together for the funeral. My mom was basically in charge, and, since I'm the oldest grandchild at 24, I was heavily involved as well. We locked the door, but every family had a key 5. We did not confront them. It isn't worth it to get into it with them when we barely see them anyway. I think my mom would prefer to build a stronger bond with him and his family, since he is her little brother. P.S. They're staying at our house right now. Lol. Dyed her hair red in our bathroom sink, staining the brand new granite countertop, then dripped onto the new tile floor, then dripped onto the hardwood floor in the hallway, and ultimately slept in our guest bed with wet, freshly dyed red hair, staining the sheets and pillowcase. Jesus, this is unfathomable to me. I've been a long-term guest before. I was just slightly homeless at one point. I had dyed hair, and the color was in these reusable tubs, so it cost me nothing to maintain it. I just had to have a place to do it. Was so worried about not making a mess of my host's place. I got on my hands and knees and scrubbed the bottom of the shower with a magic eraser to clean off the small amount of residue that was left before I even left the bathroom. Did accidentally leave a spot on the counter later on down the line, despite covering the area in newspaper and stuff, and I tried remedies until it was clean over several weeks. Also put one of my t-shirts over their pillows until I was sure I'd have no bleed. I was so paranoid about ruining their things, it just hurts my brain to know people do the same or more of a mess and don't even care. I appreciate the respect you had for your hosts. Wasn't home when this happened, but some family friend I've never met, and their kid comes over one afternoon. Kid gets bored and decided it's a great idea to disassemble every Lego build I've kept over the last 10 years. Almost everything was built from imagination, so no instructions to rebuild again. I was devastated when I got home seeing Lego pieces spread across the entire floor of my room. Something similar happened to me. Mom's friend and her sons come over. The older one was about my age. We go to my room to play a Lego, and the first thing the older one does is grabs my Star Wars set, rips it apart, and throws them around the room. I never did find all the pieces. Needless to say, I was pretty upset after that. His mom comes into the room, gives him a talking to, asks him why he did it. He shrugs and says he did it because he hates Star Wars. Anyway, the next time they came over, he gave me the innards of a slot car, presumably as an apology. I wasn't thrilled with half a slot car, but I didn't want to look ungrateful in front of my mom and his, so I accept it. I tried it out later and found out it was broken. What is a slot car and what are the innards? Just this past Halloween, we threw a pretty open invite party, expecting our friends to vet the friends they bring. One group shows up when the party's in full swing and includes a work friend of a friend. I join a party game a little while later and notice that she's drinking out of one of our actual wine glasses, which means she grabbed it from the bar, while everyone else uses the solo cups set out for that purpose. I get up, grab a fresh solo cup, and ask that she use it instead. I don't like to drink wine from a solo cup. I get that, but this is a party, and I'm a little worried the glass will get broken. What if I give you my number in case I break the glass? No. Despite the fact that the glasses were a wedding gift and have more that financial significance, I'd prefer not to have glass shards and red wine on my carpet. She acquiesced, but was huffy. The friend who brought her was mortified. It's a small thing in comparison to some of these other stories, but her rudeness, when she didn't know who the host was, frankly started me. It's probably also worth noting that we live in the South, where politeness is paramount. My wife had a friend who has kids come over and stay at our house, 5 kids. The woman let the kids run around our house wherever they wanted, even through doors that were closed and they had been told not to go through. At one point 2 girls were in the bathroom and started flashing items, including a brush that got stuck in the bend of the toilet. I never was able to get it out and had to buy a whole new toilet. At the end of the night, when we were getting the kids ready to go to bed, she took her 5 kids and sat in the middle of our living room and sang Christian songs, "Yes, Jesus Loves Me," and other horrible things. She then sent the kids to bed and told us we had to go to bed because she didn't want us waking up her kids. I'm not the type of guy who tells his wife what she can and cannot do, but I told her when they left that they will never ever be allowed in our house again. She agreed without argument. The woman did try to come back to stay, and my wife told her flat out she had to stay in a hotel and she could visit them in a public place. Flushing items. I was really confused. My grandpa was a carpenter, and he made for me for Christmas, when I was around 6, 7, the most intricate and beautiful doll's house imaginable. It had electrical fittings with tiny chandeliers, it had furniture, it had fireplaces and doors, wallpaper, you name it. My mum organized a play date at our house a few months into the new year. I remember watching in horror as the chandeliers were ripped from the ceilings, doors ripped off their hinges, etc. It wasn't wear and tear, it was mindless. I ran crying to my mum and the other mum of my playdate. The other mum laughed it off and said that's why she won't get expensive things for her daughter. It absolutely broke my heart, and probably my grandpa's too. As such a careful and thoughtful child, I hope someone explained to him it wasn't me that destroyed the doll's house so quickly. The older I get, the more I realize what an awful thing that child did, and moreover how the parent handled it. I still think about it now. I hope I can restore it if I ever have children of my own. Had some friends over, and one of my buddies went to the bathroom. When I walked in, I heard something rattling. He was stealing Vicodin that my wife got the day before from getting a root canal and still needed. When I walked in, as referring to walking back in the house, that bathroom was off the kitchen. He didn't hear me come in the house and had the door to the bathroom cracked slightly, so I looked in when I heard the rattling. No, I don't just walk into the bathroom. At the same time, most of my guy friends just slightly shut the door in, even that when fear taking a leak. Our group of friends have been friends now for around 30 some odd years, so we all probably too close. Your wife got Vicodin for a root canal. We are lucky if we get something with a little codeine in it here. It's mostly just hefty doses of Panadol. Nonetheless, stealing medication from people who need it is the scummiest thing out there, or close to it. I hope you booted that friend from your life. This is about an undisciplined kid. I hate those. My mum attempted to hold piano classes in our house once, and there was this one time when a mum and her young 7 years old daughter came for an inquiry. All the time the mum and my mum were standing and talking, and the daughter was walking around touching everything, opening all the containers, looking in, playing with things. And the mum acted like she didn't see a thing. The daughter opened a container above our piano and pulled out sheets of stickers. My stickers. She really liked them and turned around to ask her mum, "Mum, can I take these?" To which her mum replied, "Yeah, sure." As if it's this. My mum didn't say much, and shy as I was, I didn't say anything either. Over a decade later, I'm still angry about the incident. The fucking girl just went ahead and took my stickers. Mom's best friend had to move across the country. Her husband had to stay behind for a couple weeks for work-related reasons. My parents offered to let him stay at our house. 3 or so months later, he had not left despite my parents asking him politely several times, and his wife very angrily telling him to leave several times. He had no excuse not to go other than he didn't want to do the drive. He had stopped working months prior and was just sitting on our family computer all day and hogging it at night. Mid-90s. My mom finally lost it and put all his stuff outside and locked the door when he left to go to the store. He left that night. My mom and her best friend have essentially just ignored her husband's existence for 20-something years. My grandma visited from out of state for my high school graduation. She stayed for 2 weeks past my graduation, threw a fit if I tried to sleep past 9 AM, and told my mom that she needed to work less so she could clean the house better. Every time my grandparents are in town, they always freak out with how late I sleep. I usually wake up about 10. It really annoys me. I'm 18. I'm sorry, I like to sleep in. THEARLYBIDC at CHSTHE worm. But the second mouse gets the cheese. My dad's been staying with my grandpa since he's having health problems, but he constantly wakes him up since he's sleeping so late. My dad works third shift,